Today we're going to look at the presidency of Andrew Jackson, the seventh president of the United States, who served from 1829 until 1837. In 1828, Andrew Jackson was elected the seventh president of the United States. Jackson was the hero of the Battle of New Orleans during the War of 1812. Because he considered himself a self-made man, Jackson's victory was won for the common man. Jackson invited the public to his inauguration, and 20,000 citizens showed up, damaging the White House lawn and breaking glass and dishes when they tried to get refreshments. Andrew Jackson was supported by Southern slave owners and farmers. He also believed in a strong national government and democratic ideals. Based on these beliefs, the modern Democratic Party formed around him. Under these democratic ideals, more Americans got suffrage or voting rights, and everyday people became involved in politics. Nominating conventions began to appear. This is where popularly elected members of each political party chose their presidential candidates. All of these things became known as Jacksonian democracy. During Jackson's administration, the United States faced a crisis over protective tariffs and states' rights. In 1828, a protective tariff was put in place to protect U.S. industries. Southern states, led by South Carolina and John C. Calhoun, hated the tariff. They called it the Tariff of Abominations because it was disliked so much. Because the South imported most of its products, they felt the tariff hurt their economy and made northern businessmen rich. In 1832, the tariff was reduced, but John C. Calhoun in South Carolina still felt it was too high. Calhoun felt the tariff was unconstitutional. His belief in states' rights led South Carolina to nullify, which means not allow, the tax. They even threatened to secede, which means leave, the United States if the government tried to enforce it. States' rights is the belief that a state does not have to follow a law if they felt that law violated the Constitution. This idea went all the way back to Thomas Jefferson's Virginia resolutions, which opposed the Alien and Sedition Acts. President Jackson called South Carolina's act treason and threatened to use force to make sure the law was followed, like Washington and the Whiskey Rebellion. This event became known as the Nullification Crisis. Henry Clay, the great compromiser, proposed a compromise that would reduce the tariff over 10 years. Faced with the threat of federal troops and no other southern states backing them up, South Carolina withdrew its nullification. Before Jackson became president, many states in the South were forcing Native American Indians off their lands. These states wanted Indian lands because they were good for agriculture. The Cherokee Indians sued the state of Georgia for doing that. In the Supreme Court case of Worcester versus Georgia, Chief Justice John Marshall ruled in favor of the Cherokee. Jackson ignored the ruling. Before the case got to the Supreme Court, the United States government passed the Indian Removal Act of 1830. This law forced all Indians east of the Mississippi River to Indian Territory, which is present-day Oklahoma. So all these Indians east of the Mississippi River were sent to present-day Oklahoma. In 1837, federal troops began to escort 16,000 Cherokee Indians to Indian Territory. Because they had to endure winter weather, 1/4 of them died. This 800-mile journey became known as the Trail of Tears. Finally, even though the Supreme Court case of McCulloch versus Maryland stated the Bank of the United States was legal, Jackson did not like the bank. He felt it gave an unfair monopoly to the wealthy. So Jackson ordered the removal of all the deposits from the bank, then refused to renew the National Bank's charter in order to destroy it. Some people thought Jackson was like a dictator in the way he was doing things. And here's a political cartoon having Andrew Jackson drawn up as King Andrew I. To review, during Andrew Jackson's administration, more people became involved in politics. Indians east of the Mississippi River were sent to Indian Territory. The Nullification Crisis occurred, and the charter of the Bank of the United States was not renewed.